I'm Hector Garcia, and in 2012, I started an advertising agency in my daughter's pink bedroom and with $750. Today, that agency is worth over $10 million. It took a lot of pain, plenty of failure, and a lot of hustle. Running a business isn't easy, but today I want to share with you what you usually don't see beyond the hustle. Once again, it is Beyond the Hustle podcast. I am Hector Garcia. This is episode number 7. Thank you guys for tuning in, subscribing, watching, sharing, and appreciate all the follows and also the mentions I'm getting out in the streets. Want to give a big shout out to our producer, Nolan Pena. Nolan's been doing this for quite a while now, and he has not quit or gave up on it. So thanks, Nolan, for all your hard work on the show. You've done a great job. But today, I have a phenomenal guest here that I'm excited to introduce to you guys, a leader in our community, somebody that oversees a college, a local school here in Houston, Texas. She's won several awards and accolades, and she's done a phenomenal job, and she has quite the story of her hustle. She started from the bottom, she started with nothing, and she created something great. Today, I'm excited to introduce you guys to Elvia Quintanilla of Texas Trade School. Texas Technical Trade School. Elvia, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate that wonderful introduction.
No, we're excited. I'm excited to have you on the show. Really briefly, Elvia, in the next 2 minutes, share with us about your background.
Well, I was born in Houston, Texas, but my roots are really strong as far as I was born in Houston, but we were raised in the border, Brownsville, Texas. So I would say half of my life I lived in Mexico because every summer or every weekend we cross the border, go to Tamaulipas, Villahermosa. That's where we're from. So I have really strong roots with my culture, and that's really embodied everything.
Hey, that's probably where we connect. I'm not sure if you knew that my grandma's from San Benito.
No, I didn't know that.
My dad's born in Brownsville.
Okay, well, people in the valley are pretty awesome.
Yeah, so Gali, man. You know?
I know, yeah.
Everything is with a man.
It changes when you go down there. You get a little bit up here.
The slang.
Yes, exactly.
Right, but you know who's from the valley from the slang.
Exactly.
But in fact, on the mural there in my office, in the main office here, you'll see my grandmother and my grandfather. They're both my grandmother from San Benito and my grandfather born in Brownsville.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I have my roots are in Brownsville, and my great grandmother is from Matamoros.
Yeah, so that's pretty close. You're about a couple miles away from Villahermosa. Villahermosa is such a small town, but it's really where I learned a sense of culture. I learned the community, what it is to help each other, what it is to stick together, and that's really who's made me who I am. And then the things that I gone through life, the obstacles that I faced, being a young mom at 17, a single mom, getting divorced at 23, and just learning from all the things that you do and you're not ready for has really shaped the person I am today. So I have a lot of students that tell me, Miss, you got it all together. I'm like, no, I don't. I just learned from my mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, but you learn from your mistake. It's either you pay time or you pay money. I paid a lot of time in learning from my mistakes. And
you paid a pretty price too as well to get to where you are today.
Yes.
I think, a lot of people say, well, lucky her.
Yep.
Well, they weren't, you didn't feel lucky when you're going through the pain.
Oh no, you don't feel lucky, but you feel alone a lot of the time because you feel like you complaining if you're talking about it, or you're being cocky about it when you're sharing successes. So you just don't know sometimes how to be. So you just internalize everything. So
tell me about your childhood, because you're from Brownsville. You're from the Valley. Tell me about your childhood there and how you ended up in Houston.
Well, I had a really pretty rough childhood. I would say rough as far as we moved a lot. You know, my parents were always together, but it wasn't so beautiful. It was chaotic household. I have 4 sisters, only girls, 5 of us. My dad trying to keep us all in line, So growing up in a household, my parents were not from here. And so things looked a lot different, a lot harder. And that's really how I grew up. Our first language was Spanish. We only spoke Spanish. So when we went into school, it was a shocker because we were the ones that didn't know English.
Wow.
So it was, I remember our cousins making fun of us because my parents didn't teach us English. So it was I lived in the United States. I was born in the United States, but I was raised really like a lot in Mexico with my grandmother in the summer, things like that. So that really was shaped my life, my culture, like I said. And then my dad has always worked in construction, different type of trade jobs. My mom always, first being a housewife, and then from there, when things got harder, she had to get a job. And I remember her working Jack in the Box, giving rides to students to school, being a bus lady, we said, and then cooking, cleaning. Like she had like 4 jobs. So I get my hustle from my mom. I get my
the hard work ethic.
The hard work ethic from my mom, from my dad as well. But I feel like my mom has an entrepreneur heart. And I tell her all the time. Always
finding ways to make money.
Exactly. Never letting anything stop them. Exactly. But we were always provided for. And you don't really appreciate it when you're young because you don't see, you just think like, man, why we can't do nothing? Why are we going to the food pantry? Why we got food stamps, all these things. And then you learn to appreciate that, that culture, that togetherness, that you may not have a lot, but you have family. And in this time and age, I'd rather have that than anything else.
Right, because that's what created you. I grew up poor myself too as well. I've had guests where I tell people like, hey, my grandmother had a partner raising me. I used to go dumpster diving. There was a time that we didn't even have a toilet, that we had to use a toilet in a bucket. And I remember Sherwin-Williams bucket. And this is when we were in Houston. And, there was a time, but you didn't know what was going on at a young age. You just knew that was normal. You thought that was normal. I would remember, riding the Metro bus and going to my grandmother to her doctor's appointments. And that was my fun, riding the bus. And then my grandmother would say, okay, mijo, you can go play in the water fountain. And I'll be in the water fountain right here by the zoo and swimming in the zoo. And I'm like, people are honking, but I didn't know. I thought that was fun. But now looking back, I could have got electrocuted.
You were just living in the wild.
And that was fun to us. And, when I got older, I'll kind of make fun of my grandmother with her. And I would say, Grandma, you almost killed me. She would, but mijo, you had fun.
Did you die? Did you die? That's really what parents tell us.
It created us, sitting, I remember she would send me on the side of East Tex Freeway, because that's the area I grew up here in Houston, 59 in Little York. And I would be 8, 9 years old and picking up cans. Well, in those days, you pick up aluminum cans and turn it in for cash. Right? And you get nickels for, for a nickel for a pound or whatever. But I was out there. That was me. But that created to who we are today. And your story sounds very familiar too as well, is that the struggle created you.
Yes.
Right?
It sure did.
The lack of created you.
Yes.
You may not have the best upbringing, but now you can look back and say there's no other way I'd rather have had it.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have that upbringing.
Right.
I wouldn't have the perspective that I have about life. I wouldn't have the eagerness to succeed, or that fire under, where you say you're behind, that is like, that pushes you. But, what really accelerated that was me becoming a mom at a young age. I didn't want to be another statistic of a Latina single mom, depending on anybody. If I did, awesome, it would worked out. But I saw how hard it was for my mom sometimes to depend on my dad, not because it's just that they didn't get along. Like my dad is great, my mom is great. I love them both. We have a great relationship now. But at a young age, it was hard. And I would tell myself, coming from just women household, my dad being the only man, it was a lot of machismo sometimes, So I would say, it's like, well, that can't be life. I always wanted something more, where you can do more, provide more. And I was like, well, I think I can do that too, So it really molded me.
Here, when you had your son, who's now 17 now.
Yes.
You were in Houston at the time?
No, I was living in Fort Worth, Texas at the time. So we moved a lot when I was young, and we used to live all over Texas. We lived in Brownsville, Texas. We lived in Alamo, Texas. We lived in Houston, Texas, and we lived in Fort Worth, Texas. Really, my majority of my life, I would say, from now bouncing around, Fort Worth was really where we stayed for a while as a family. But then my parents split up for good when I was a junior in high school.
Wow.
And it was really hard for me because school and education was always important for me because I knew it was my getaway.
Yeah.
I was going to be able to do something. But I was top 10% of my class. I was in sports. I was in ROTC. I did all these clubs to get away from the house so I can, not hear all the chaos there.
Yeah.
And so I love my teachers. My teachers were awesome mentors. So I always had that's why I think of education as an escape for a lot of people.
Right.
But the right education, depending on how you want to learn. So those are the things that really molded me. So I would say Fort Worth, Texas is what I consider my second home, because I was born in Houston, but I was really raised in Fort Worth, Texas. That's where I met my high school sweetheart, had my child with, and then my second family, because his mom and his dad are amazing. And I still love them. Yeah. They love me, and they're wonderful grandparents to my son. And if I wouldn't have gone through that, I wouldn't have met that family. I wouldn't have become the woman that I am, because she taught me how to be a woman. Yeah. I was very rough, I got into a lot of trouble. Sure. But never.
Yeah, I know the way to do that, because
it was more like hard-headedness. Right. It was more like, I want to do things my own way and I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah. I was very, what do you say, mula. Like people in Spanish say mula. Yeah. And my parents just couldn't keep up with me. And so I remember that centered me. It
created a fire in you too as well.
Yes.
I mean, that's one thing when we've been working together now for a while, and I noticed that you just have a burning passion and fire in you. Which is unique, and you create your own. And one thing I've noticed about entrepreneurs or people who are leaders is that they create their own environment. Yeah, like it's their own environment that kind of follows them. They walk into a room, they create a presence, and sometimes I hate that. I'm sure you sometimes I just want to be. I just be normal. I don't want this sometimes. So I've heard staff members, and they say, "Well, Hector's not smiling today. He must be mad." No, I look like that. Yes. I look like I'm mad all the time. Yeah. Thanks to my grandparents, right? I have the RBF, but it's just that impact that you carry, the passion, it shows on your shoulder. There's a glow.
Thank you.
To you. That's special and unique, and I'm real excited again. Thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it.
So how did you end up in Houston?
So my divorce. Okay. So I was, like I said, whenever we came back to Houston when I was a junior, my parents split up. My parents ended up coming back together, but now we came to Houston. So I didn't want to be in Houston because I was already a junior in high school. Yeah. So I wanted to be. So I went back. My sister became my legal guardian. My older sister, we lived together, and I told her, I promise you I'm gonna behave. And that's what I did. I went to school, I played sports, and I graduated, but I met my high school sweetheart. And then that's whenever I was like, oh, I'm in love. And I was supposed to go to college for law and all these things. That's my dreams. Those were my dreams, play sports and volleyball. I was really big in volleyball. And I didn't... So I stayed there, and I stayed in Fort Worth, and that's what I said. I got really close to his family, and then they showed me so many things. But unfortunately, we were very young. We were both 16 when we met. We got
young love.
We had a kid at 17, and then separated at 23. So I came back home with my family. Okay. And my son was 6. Okay. So I came back to Houston, and through everything, like I say, in life, you learn. If I wouldn't have came back to Houston, I wouldn't have gone to the business of schools. Right. I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, and all that journey is brought you where you are today. And
yes.
The scary part is that there's still plenty more to go.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, what's next? And I think you learn in entrepreneurship and business is that you try to foresee the icebergs ahead, right? What's gonna hit, but you've learned to embrace those challenges and make those challenges into something what can I learn from this and be better from this? So you come here, you're now in Houston, now with a 6-year-old.
Yes.
And then you tell me, because you didn't just start the school right off the bat.
No.
So you went to career and you started follow a career path.
Yeah, so I came to Houston, and I went to my nearest workforce office, and where I learned that you could get jobs through there, and from there they placed me in a school. So at that point, it was in downtown Polk and Scott, and I was an admission customer service representative when I first started, right, in 2013, and I was like, okay, awesome, I'm gonna be in the office, I'm working, and then from there I learned the work that I do now, which is workforce development and economic development, but they didn't call it that. It was different. The purpose is workforce development, economic development. their purpose was different. I was there for 10 years. But through those 10 years, I learned so much because I really fell in love with being able to help people. So, we scholarship people. We gave an opportunity to second chances. We saw people become who they really wanted to become and give them opportunities. So to me, I was like, I've never heard of this. I get paid to do this. So I fell in love and I hyper-focused on it. I became, from there, admission representative, then office manager, then director of the school, VA representative, and then I became the second hand to the owner of that school.
Right.
But unfortunately, he didn't have that passion for people like I did. Right. So I ended up quitting 10 years later when COVID hit, and my story started there. And
then you go off and you decided, what was that moment that hit you and say, you know what, I'm going to quit security? At that time, your son's older, right?
Yes, he was now at that time almost 12 or 11, 10.
About 10 years old, right? So he's about 10. That's a big leap.
Very, especially when it was the most money I've ever made in my life.
Yeah.
And I was already, like I said, I was doing well for myself. Me and my son were able to go to vacations once a year, which was, to me, was like that dream,
Right.
And showing my son different things. But I think my turning point was I worked so hard and devoted myself so much, and it really, my son would be there with me, pick him up from school, drop him off to school, then get him come back to work, because I always had that good, that hard work, grit ethic that my parents showed me.
Yeah.
But eventually I started learning that, what am I doing if I'm not getting in a return, as far as like you're not getting invested in
long term?
Yeah, long term. And it didn't have to be
you're putting your effort and equities going to somebody else.
Exactly. And I would see how long I would take away from my son. So to me, it was like, okay, well, this is not making sense. And then the way we're serving people wasn't becoming it wasn't what I liked. Sure. I didn't feel good about going to work anymore. And
you didn't feel good about yourself when you went home. You didn't feel good about yourself.
Exactly. So I didn't want to continue to do that. COVID really exposed that school.
Sure.
And the greediness of it.
Okay.
And I couldn't be the face of that. You know, I was like, I'm not going to be the one to sit across the table from my community and let them know how we're going to not be able to help them and lie to them. I couldn't. Yeah. So it started becoming that. So I, sat with my boss and I told him, I was like, I need you to change. I was like, I need you to either remove yourself because you want me to run your school. Because at that point I was already running it.
Right.
I had 30 plus staff under me. I had like more than 10 faculty members as far as instructors under me. And I was making him a lot of money. And I never cared about that. I just wanted to take care of me, take care of the people, and then we're good. Mm-hmm. But when we started, when COVID started, everything started kind of like being shady. And I was just like, I can't do this. I'm working for a purpose. So I had to do a really hard decision, not having another job, not having an idea what I was going to do, but I knew that I was going to stand for that. And I was like, I got to go. So I walked out from one day to another. And then 3 people left with me, not having jobs, not having anything for them either. I was like, ladies,
not really a plan either.
I need you guys to understand, I don't have a job. Y'all don't have a job. I can't take care of your bills. I can barely take care of mine. Right. Good thing I had little savings because I've always been big on saving. And I quit. But my idea was, I'm going to go be a director at another school. I have expertise. I have, all this knowledge. I'm going to take it somewhere else and start from the ground up there too. Right. But the people around me that really believed in me said, Elvia, you've been running a school. You haven't just been doing work. Like, you know how to run a school. Why don't you
know
try?
The in and out of it?
And that little spark right there, it really, like, I couldn't sleep anymore. I was like, what if I just try? What if I just try? And that really is how things started in 2020.
You go into, you start with 3 people. They leave their security. You got your 10-11-year-old son, and you go off and you rent a shop, you rent a storefront. Like,
yes. Well, those people didn't go with me. Mm-hmm. They did their own thing, but we were still friends and we were together, and they helped me as far as like believing in myself, give me that push. But they didn't work with me. It was myself for at least a good year, not doing anything in the school. You have to get it approved through the state, getting occupational certificates, and then me learning everything from like not knowing. And at that point, AI wasn't as big either 5 years ago. And so I would just Google things and then research from there. But I always believed that I knew that if I took care of people, if it was for the right cause, God was going to show me the way. And he did every time. Every time that I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it, he showed up right on time. Yeah. And so I always, those things and those flags, green flags I call, I was like, I'm in the right path. I'm in the right path. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to continue to push. Yeah. So I say 2020 is when I started the business, but we didn't start operating until 2022. So we've been operating for 3 years.
Yeah, so those 2 years, it was kind of hard, I'm sure.
I lost a lot of money, but I did have my fiance now, we met right before I quit the school or right after I quit the school, because now I had time to actually go date, I was so devoted to my job. And so he come to find out he's a builder. Right. So not by like a certificate, he just done it. So he helped me build the school as far as like the building out of it. And then I had one teacher that really believed in me, and he's master electrician and he works for me now. And he was the one that really would help me get everything organized on his end with my end.
So now you have Texas Technical Trade School. You're now in 2025, 5 years, 3 years in business, so 5 years total, right? So in that, has there ever been a moment that you just thought, you know what, this is too much for me? Or you said like, I'm going to give up, or let me just go back to the workforce?
Many times. I'd say the first two, whenever I was not operating and I was just losing money, I had to have a place without being able to promote the place, because I had to get the licenses in place, and not seeing my bank account go down and not having a job that generated that much money. I had to work 3 jobs. I was working at a daycare. I was working at a local workforce office at that point. Wow. And then I was, doing consulting. So it was very hard for me. And I was like, why am I working so hard? But I was like, there's a reason. There's a reason. And it always was, I want to give an opportunity to my son to do whatever he wants to do, to see.
It was your son that pulled you through.
Oh, yes. My son pulled me through. There were so many times I wanted to quit. Yeah. But I'm not a quitter.
Sure.
I'm very competitive.
Doing it and wanting to do it is two different things.
I was like, I thought about it. Yeah. But I was like, you're not a quitter.
I think about that every day.
Yeah. And I still think about that. Today I was like
the vacations, 9 to 5.
Everybody's relaxing. I see people taking vacation. I'm like, I haven't taken vacation in 5 years. Right. I used to take one every year.
Right. Yeah. And even when you go on vacations, so I go on vacations, I'm still working.
Yeah.
You don't technically, I'm never at a... the hustle never stops.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
True.
So it's your son that pulled you through. Now, being a woman in leadership, what is, as a man, I've seen, where my wife, and she recently was able to retire, thank God. But I've been able to see obviously women do get treated differently, or have to work harder for respect. Yep. Do you ever find that in your case as a woman entrepreneur and leader?
I would say when I was working in that space in that school, people don't believe me, and people were like, "How the heck?" I was very naive and young. Yeah. And I remember my boss. I had to work very hard to get to the manager position. I was there longer than other people, and I remember one time he brought in a manager outside that didn't know how to do the work, and he told me, "Elvia, you're going to train him." And I felt so belittled, because I was like, I've been here longer. I know everything from the ground up. And he was like, I asked him, because one thing is that I ask questions and let me know why, So I sat with him and I talked to him. I was like, hey, I've been here for this long. I know this, and I generate this much. I know the profit. I know the margins. I know all of these things. Right. Why would you want me to train somebody that doesn't understand? He's like, Elvia, nobody's going to respect you. You're a girl. He literally told me like that, but I was so naive and young that I didn't know that was not appropriate. I was like, that fueled me more. To me, I was like, like, okay, I'll show you. I'm gonna give him the basics, but I'm not gonna train at my expense. I'm not training, and I would let him know. I was like, either you can let me go, or I'm gonna show him only the basics, but I'm not going out of my way to train my competition.
And I think the thing is that I'm not one. I feel like everybody has a story, right? Yes. If I could do it, everybody else could do it, and whether I'm a man or a woman, the next person could do it. But there's things that I've seen too in my career field. You're not only a woman, but you're a Latina. Yes. So there's another thing there. I've seen in the workforce and working with corporate America myself, and that Hispanics are known to be workhorses. Like we work really hard. The story that you talk about your parents and your upbringing, that is a common thing that we came from. I always tell people we may not be the best agency, and I feel that we're the best agency in town, right?
You guys are.
But we're going to be I know we're the hardest working that's there.
Mm-hmm. And you show up for your customers.
Show up, right?
Exactly.
And that comes from our work ethic. Mm-hmm. I was 9 years old. My father, who was a migrant worker, gave me a lawnmower and said, son, you're going to go start mowing yards. And I started mowing yards at 9 years old. And that's why I started, my first business was mowing yards. And I can imagine my 9-year-old son now, my now 11, but, doing stuff like that. In those days, you felt more safe to go door to door.
Yes.
Right? You can't do that now.
It's a little crazy.
You're right, just a little bit. But then from there, I started car washing but the Latinos and Hispanics are treated a certain way, but, we're given opportunities, but we're pigeonholed into that. You're going to stay there because I can't have you anywhere else because you're really good at what you do.
Yep.
And you're bypassed because who's going to replace that?
Yep.
Who's going to fill, it's going to take 2 or 3 people. There's times when I've left jobs and they replaced me with 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure you had that situation where, where people just look past you because you're so damn good at what you do, which is just comes natural. You're just built that way because of how we were raised. But it's also it hurts in the long run because... And I feel like a lot of Hispanics do get bypassed for promotions or, again, I'm not one to throw in the race card.
Yeah.
But, I do feel like Latinos and Hispanics do get overseen for things because we are workhorses. We work hard. It's going to take 2 or 3 people to replace one person.
No, for sure.
And I'm sure you've seen that along in your career.
I have. I mean, like you said, I think very much like you is like, don't ever victimize yourself. Sure. Learn from everything that you're thrown. I said, but at one point you do see a little of that biases, you know, and then that school closed down after I left 2 years later. And it had been in operations for 12 years.
Wow.
So that showed you the impact that I had for that school. I was even surprised myself that I was like, I didn't even know that I was working that hard.
Either way, you would have been. But look how God looked out for you too, as well. Like you already knew. Like imagine if you had stuck around for the safety.
Oh yes, I saw the forefront. I was like, you keep operating this way, you're not going to be here long. Right. And I would try to sit with him and talk to him, and I was like, look, if you want money, that's fine. We'll make you money. Stay out of the business, and we'll generate and we'll help people. But you're messing up the business, So, but to that sense, is like I have a lot of things that are going against me. Like I'm a woman, they say. I'm Latina, and then also I'm young for the business of schools.
Right.
I'm one of the youngest Latinas to have a school in Houston, Texas, and generating the potential that we have. And when you actually sit and think about it, I really try not to, because then it gets more scary. Sure. I was like, you know what? We're really like shattering these glass ceilings. And I'm proud of that, because a lot of now people ask me, you're inspiring me. And to me, I'm just doing what I love to do.
You're pioneering and you're clearing the path, but not just only for your son, but many other people who are looking up to you and saying, if she can do it, I could do it too.
Yes.
When you first opened the doors for Texas Technical Trade School, what was your first doubt? Like, what was the biggest doubt that you faced?
How am I going to get students in here?
Yeah.
I was just like, why are they going to choose me over other schools?
Right.
I was, and then at that point, my biggest passion about having this school is that we have initiatives that we scholarship students. So I would say 75% or more of or less of our students are getting a full scholarship from the state. So that's the work that I love. But at that point, I couldn't, because I had to first meet the metrics for me to be able to do that. So people had to pay to come to my school before I can do those things. So me not knowing how to do that, I was like, why is anybody going to pay to come here? I would doubt myself. I was my biggest, obstacle.
Right.
And I remember people would sit with me. I was like, you care about students. You were trying to make it better for them.
Do you ever feel that way still today? Do you feel like, why are people still signing up? Like,
sometimes I do.
They're like, wow, we got all these people who signed up, and you feel honored, right? You feel like it's like, but at the end of the day, it goes back to, and that's one thing that really gravitated toward me to your story is, hearing how much you care about people. You walk in this door here, you see la gente primero.
Yes,
people
I love
first.
That.
I was raised like I said, my grandparents raised me to, take off the clothes off my back to help somebody else to help. And it was about putting people first, and it was when you take care of people, people will take care of you.
Very true.
we just so happen to find solutions, and money is just a byproduct of what we do, right? And we don't chase. What I tell the youngsters and the people that I mentor is that don't chase paper, chase purpose.
Yes.
And I believe you're chasing your purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking on your purpose, what is it you're passionate about? You talk about people, but tell us a little bit more about your purpose. What do you want people to know about Elvia and Texas Technical Trade School?
I've always been the fighter for the underdog. I always had that, like I said, I wanted to be a lawyer at one point in my life to represent and help people. I always feel like I can understand bureaucracy very well, and wasn't afraid to face it and advocate for the right thing.
Right.
So I that's really who I am, and everything that I've done. It doesn't matter how small the thing was or how big. I remember going to the food stamp office with my mom and them ladies being rude to people. And I would say, I would be, I don't even know how old I was, maybe 10 or younger. Yeah. And I remember telling those ladies, that's rude. Why are you talking to them like they're nothing? I said, people deserve respect. Yep. And I think that having that in me, I think that's literally is like, that's my purpose, is showing people that you can run a business, that you can have a school, you can make profit, but it's all people based. And if you don't have people, if you're not helping people, what's your purpose in this world?
Yeah. And the thing is, you with nothing.
Exactly.
You started with nothing. You didn't
really
you had nothing, and you, I'm not going to say you came from nothing, because you came with a lot of knowledge, because of values, right? And that values is what brought you to where you are today. But monetary wise and, experience wise and running a
Blueprints.
business. Yeah, you didn't have that.
No.
We didn't, me and you, I didn't go to college. I went to the Art Institute of Houston.
Okay.
But, I learned more in my career than I was in, I didn't teach me about business. Mm-hmm. Every day I'm here, and I'm 13 years now in. It's always a new day. It's a new learning opportunity. But we love what we do. Yeah. Right. You love. I'm sure you go into. Tell me about your daily life there at the school.
Oh, it's all over there. It depends on the day. But I mean, I literally. I'm one of those people that loves to understand what I'm doing and everything is going on, but I'm not get too devoted into it. Yeah. But I mean, one day I can be running financials. The other day we're billing. The other day I'm actually helping admissions do training and doing sales, because at the end of the day, we still help students understand why we're a good school. And then the other day I'm running career services. I love networking with people because I love to learn their why. Mm-hmm. So if I can learn why we're servicing that customer, which is either the student or the employer, then I can better create solutions for them. And I'm a solution-driven person, you know. So there's a problem, there's an opportunity for me. And I think it's how you look at everything in life. You look at the silver lining, then you know that you're not lacking. There's just a lack of, but what is it? Look for it, So I've always had that mindset. It was like, man, we have such opportunity in this country, and I'm not going to let it go to waste. My parents came here for a reason. I'm not going to let that go to waste. Yeah. I see a lot of people that don't have the opportunity. So that really is what sometimes my day-to-day looks like.
I tell my kids too as well, whenever I see them lazy or I see them that they're kind of like slacking off or whatever, or they're being bums at school. They have a whole life that's so much better than what I ever had, right? I went to 13 different schools too as well. So I jumped from place to place. That's because my parents could not afford to be in one place. And while that probably created some, other elements in me, but on the other side, I learned how to, work with people, adapt, right? Adaptability. But anyways, I tell my kids, I said, hey, I tell them about my story, and I tell them about my grandparents and their grandparents. And I said, if you don't meeting these expectations, you're doing them a disservice. Yeah. My grandmother was, picked cotton, strawberries in South Texas. My father did the same. They did that so that I could have a better life. And they did that so that they could have a better life. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's like, if you don't do that, all that was for waste.
Exactly.
We got to continue to push that legacy of what they did. They sacrificed so that I wouldn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. But also I'm sacrificing, you're sacrificing too, to make sure your son doesn't have to do the price of traveling from all over Texas and being from place to place. Yeah. We talked about purpose earlier. How do you balance? We talked about, before we actually started recording, we talked about how it's hard to manage, right? And then you care for people. How do you balance purpose with business?
Well, at the end of the day, we're a business, you know. So if we don't have a business and we're not bringing income, there's no business. And if there's no business, there's no work. So you can't get paid, you know. So at the end of the day, I make sure my team understands that we're a business, but we have a mission in this business. And this mission is to help people, is to train students, is to get them a job, is to help employers. But so I think if you're really upfront and realistic with the people that you on board and they understand and see your vision with you, then it's not as hard. It's still, nothing's perfect in this world, but my thing is, I would say you can be the best at anything, but if you don't have the empathy to help people, then you can't be in this business, because at the end of the day, we're school. We're not just a business, you know, but there's balances, you know, and I think that's really what makes us who we are, is because I'm very upfront with what I want and I have a clear vision.
Man, isn't that something that our education system needs to hear?
Yes, there's a lot of,
you know, I know there's a lot of good teachers that are out there that have the heart to take care of students, but they're overran by bureaucracy.
Oh, yes.
You have politics involved that ruins that. And then our students in our society that are in the education system get caught up into all that, and they're just become a number versus it being, that's our future.
Exactly.
Right.
Pouring into them.
And that is a heart. And you guys are definitely doing something much different there at Texas Technical Trade School. You grew this starting with one. How'd you get that one student? Tell me about the first student.
Man, the first class that I ever ran was 5 students.
Okay.
Now we're operating 55 students a month.
Wow.
But I mean, it's taken a while. But I remember the first 5.
Yeah.
And I was super ecstatic because I was like, I didn't even think I could get 1. I got 5 in the first class, and 2 of them paid out of pocket, 3 of them got a scholarship, and to me, one out of the 5, one was a mom and a son. And they were training together. They lived in Cleveland, Texas. Come here 1 hour every day to train, invest in themselves. They had a small construction company. And then the other 3, one was a dropout, got a GED just to come to my school. And then the other 2 were young adults. And Diego, I remember Diego still, he's now going to be a journeyman. And so he's already been in the field 3+ years and can already go test for his journeyman license. And to me, that's really what is like, I remember my students. Now it's getting harder because it's like we got more volume, but I remember all those students, and I remember how I felt because that was my first woman, and it was a mom to train, and then 4 young adults that were in their 19s, and now they're doing better. The one that got a GED is doing very well. He's traveled to Alaska. Yeah. He's done all these things. He came back a couple of months ago and just like, thank you, miss. And he still comes around and just says, thank you because you gave me a chance. You didn't just see me as a failure for dropping out. I'm like, no, everybody has a different, like I said, course in life. Yeah. And we all learn in different times. I was like, I'm not perfect, you know, so it's definitely been very rewarding to see that. And every life is different. So it's a new reward every day.
Speaking of that, you know, I'm a big believer that it takes one person to believe in you, right? So it's just that we have I believe we have a responsibility to push another person or believe another person, because it takes that one person that could change a lot of people. For me, I've had maybe 3 or 4 people, 5 people in my life that believed in me and gave me opportunities. What is one person in your life that gave you that opportunity that feel like, man, if that person wasn't there for me and didn't believe in me, I wouldn't be where I am today?
I really would like to say when I was in high school, it was probably the hardest time of my life just because of everything that was going on with my parents. I moved to Fort Worth by myself with my older sister, and she believed in me. But my teacher, I remember having a volleyball teacher that she was in her 20s at that point. She was gonna almost adopt me because I wanted to play volleyball and I was good at it, but I couldn't move districts. And she would tell me, you have something in you, Elvia. You have a way to talk to people and let them feel good about themselves. And I wasn't the best at the team, but I was one of the ones who were always in the team because I was the best supporter. Yeah. And when I was the defensive, I did defense there. But I think Miss Davis, she was just amazing. She was just amazing. She believed in me so much, but I also had a couple of teachers like that. Sure. And I think that's really what made me, but I have, I think that too is like, I had a lot of people believe in me. Sure. I didn't believe in myself. Right. I said, but I would say some of my high school teachers in my hardest times of my life where I didn't know I was going to make it out, I think those were the biggest ones, the pivots.
Yeah, and all of that, they push you to greatness. It's uncomfortable. I tell the staff too. I tell the staff, I said, hey, if I'm pushing you, it's because I believe in you.
There you go.
And the pressure should be seen as something that you should be grateful for.
Yes.
Because if I didn't push you, then you just be normal and just settle for just nothing. Not nothing, but just settle. Who wants to settle?
You can be great.
Yeah, you can be great.
Yeah.
It's incredible though. I've seen where you believe in people, and that's one thing about the school and learning from your story and hearing you every time we go meet with you, and how much you invest, not just in time, but your heart into these students. Mm-hmm. You talked about how you have now 55 students every month. Congratulations, by the way. Congrats.
I appreciate that. It's hard, but I love it.
Yes, that's a lot of students. That's a lot of lives that's being taken. You gotta manage and watch. And some of these students come from different backgrounds.
A lot.
Some may have came from backgrounds who didn't have parents who believed in them or didn't push them. And probably you guys are probably the closest they'll ever get to some type of leadership or mentorship. Mm-hmm. What are some of the values that you instill into your students?
Well, the way that I grew up, it was very I was on my own a lot because I wanted to leave my household. I left my household at a young age. I instill in them a lot of those values as far as like, if you don't, because I do have students that are very underserved and they come from different areas. Some that our parents are, they're not here anymore. They're deported. They're on their own here. Some that are foster kids aging out of the foster system.
Wow.
Then I have second chance students that come out of jail that are nothing violent or aggravated, but they have a background. And then I have single moms. And then I have, adults that want to upskill and they want better for their families. So I have different demographics, but they're all the underdogs that I say that I was once, and I see myself in them. And one thing I teach them is you got to believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. It does not matter what trade you have, what job you go to. If you don't believe in yourself and have the confidence that you can be something, you can be better, and nobody's going to save you. You got to save yourself. And then once you save yourself, you're going to find your tribe. Stop looking for people to save you. Nobody is, until then, that's really when you're going to start living.
Right.
Because you're not living for anybody else anymore. You're living on your purpose. And so that's what I try to instill in my students.
And they don't have that home. They don't have that at home, and they're relying on that, and that's what makes you. They're not just a number. They're not just a payment. They're not just a dollar. They're real humans that are out. They're just looking for their purpose.
Yeah.
And what you guys are doing at Texas Technical Trade School is you're doing something different and special by connecting them and helping them find their purpose.
Yes, and that's really what. Every day feels like a new day because it's a new life, a new story, a new success. And one thing we hold them accountable too. It's like, don't be your own obstacle. I let them put in perspective. I'm like, you haven't got a job? Okay, let's see why you haven't got a job. Let's dissect this thing. You haven't called anybody. I said, you haven't showed up to interviews. You can't pass a drug test. I said, so somebody needs to tell you the truth. Yep. Nobody's doing anything to you. You're doing it to yourself.
Yep. Sometimes
victim mentality.
And I could say too, is Latinos too have that victim mentality too as well. And that's easy to fall into that trap.
And once you've gone through that and you've done it, you can call somebody out on it. Yeah. And that's why I say, I haven't been this person my whole life. I said, I can sit here and talk to you, a young lady, a young man, or an adult, and tell them, it's like, you're your own obstacle. When you get out of the way, show me the facts from there, and I promise you it's going to look a lot different. I said, just try this way real quick. You've been trying it your own way for so long. Give me an opportunity to show you different. And then from there, I'm like, it's all in the numbers and all statistics. That's it. I'm like, I'm not selling you anything. I'm telling you to believe in yourself. And I think really whenever you talk to people that way and you help them understand that it's going to be a hard life. Life is hard for everybody. Mm-hmm. But once you start understanding that, okay, it's not really what's happening. It's what's happening to me, but what am I doing about it?
Right.
I can sit here and dwell on it, or I can do something about it. I think the only thing we can get out of is death and sickness. And once you have your health, and if you have an opportunity, the sky is really the limit. Yeah. That's all you need.
And the thing is that other mindset could also make them an easy statistic.
Yeah.
Don't be a statistic.
Yep.
You probably have quite a, going on this topic here, you probably have quite a bit of these. What has been your proudest moment?
My proudest moment, I think, is being able to have my son along with me the whole time. Being able to show him what a dream looked like. And now he left for maybe a couple of months to Fort Worth where his dad was, because and that was very hard for me as a mom.
Sure.
But I knew he needed to be with his dad. That's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I told him, do what you want, baby. He came back maybe a month ago, and the school had grown so much. But he started with me when it was smaller, and he's like so surprised. He's like, Mom, I'm so proud of you. Like, look at everything you've done. I'm like, look at what we done.
Yeah.
You just were gone for a little bit, baby, but you helped me build this.
Yeah.
And I think hearing those words from somebody that you have the vision for and that you want to, show that there's more in life, I couldn't be more proud of myself in that. That was really a moment where I'm like, man, I'm gonna push harder, because if a young adult at 17 can see it, then I think that's a good thing, because they're oblivious to a lot of things.
I'm sure too as well that he's gonna look back and remember those moments when there was pain.
Yes.
And that the heartache, and he's gonna see those moments where you overcame, and the moments that you fought. You're a fighter.
Yes.
I could sense that. You're a big Elvia is a fighter.
I'm a fighter.
You're a fighter. That's that rambunctious kid from the valley that your parents tried to stop.
Put me in a cage. They couldn't. I was like, man, so to say.
But you're raising another fighter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, where do you get these things? I'm like, that's my son. That's my son.
And you're teaching him, you're raising that too as well. And you're setting that standard, but not just for your son, but also for some of the students there in the school who get to hear this story. Mm-hmm. And this is why we have the podcast here, is because of stories where you've fought. Here's Elvia from the valley who had a mom and who were hard work. She had four jobs. You talk about Jack in the Box and all these different things. A dad who was in construction, raised rough and had to move from place to place, and just try to find a way to live and make a living, who found her purpose through people who pushed her and believed in her. A young mom, a single mom at 17 years old.
I was single mom at my 20s when my son was 6. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then
he was like almost 13.
Yeah. And then having to have the courage to start a business. And even in business, people don't understand is that a lot of people don't understand who maybe haven't studied entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. They think it's easy.
I thought at one point it was easy.
Yes, this is easy. They can do it. I can do it too. Or you probably saw that from the previous employer was like, well, if this guy who's shady or whatever can do this, then I should do it too as well. But man, you know what? Business reprograms us.
It does.
It rewires our brain. It's not easy. It's not easy. That's how many times I would tell you that I've sat in tears on my kitchen table, IRS, employee issues,
hitting left and right.
Why would I want to do this?
Yes,
it's crazy.
Sometimes you think you're like, why are we doing this?
But it goes back to we're fighters.
Yeah,
we fight and we don't quit.
Yep.
In fact, I would say you're probably the same thing. You're probably the same way. But when your back is in the corner, that's when you're at your best.
Oh yeah, that's when I perform my best.
Yeah, you can't be comfortable.
Yeah, I'm like, don't put me in.
Yeah, when you walked into his office and you said, "Oh, that's how I got to be on the go, or I have to be." You make yourself uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right.
Sure.
You make yourself uncomfortable so that you could fight the fight. Mm-hmm. Because that fight, once you feel like there's nothing else to fight, it's like, what am I doing? I'm just swinging at air.
I just feel like I'm not living my life to the full potential.
Right.
That's how I feel, and I'm just like, sometimes it's good. It's not good to do it all the time. I've learned that now in business. You have to take a step back and enjoy the small things, so you not become so robotic, and just drive. You have to understand, and sometimes you can get lost in it, just making sure that everything is operating, because you have so much weight on your shoulder of making sure you have enough revenue to pay your staff, enough revenue to still live a life, so it's a different type of pressure now. But I mean, I look at my life before and I look at my life now, and I'm grateful to God to be where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to be chosen to do these things, to be able to learn, to have the brain that I do, to have the guts that I do, and to not see myself as, like I said, a statistic or a victim. When I wanted to add is like, now being in that school, yes, I feel like being a woman, being a Latina, being young, it was an obstacle, and I was looked at a certain way. But now being in business, I think that since I'm the one taking the reins, I don't really get that. I get a lot of good people around me. I choose to be with growth mindset.
Yep.
And I have a lot of guys that are giving me like golden nuggets about like how to run a business because they see my drive.
Sure.
And just like you say, like they see something in me.
Yep.
And, so
you fought for that.
Yeah.
You paved the way.
I earned my
correct. You earned it.
I earned that respect.
You earned it. You just didn't walk right in there and say, "Oh, here I am." No.
A lot of times I walked in this room, they looked at me like, "What are you doing here, young lady?" And then I still get that. Oh, or you're the director? I'm like, I'm the founder and the director. Yes. Yeah. And sometimes they're just like, yes, me. And I don't get offended by it, but that's how it shows you that there's a lack of, like, there's not a lot of people like that are willing to do these things that look like us, and because they don't think it's possible.
I was telling somebody when I first started this company that I didn't tell my dad for 3 years that I started a business. Because we were raised to find a good job, security, stability. We weren't raised to go off and take risks. No. We weren't raised to go travel either.
Yeah, no.
Like you're traveling. You're traveling. You're going to learn one day.
Yeah, not good.
Right. Don't travel. Yeah. That was or they get scared because we're traveling. But we were raised to work and work for someone.
Yep.
So what we're doing is different, and it's changing that mindset. What's the future look like at the school?
Well, I always say I'm not building for me only. Mm-hmm. I'm building for me and my son, of course, but I'm building for my team. I'm building leaders. I don't have workers. I don't like that. I want to have people that can lead, that don't understand what the purpose is, and scale the school and help more areas in Houston, help more cities in Texas, and eventually, if it's God wants, nationwide.
So should we be looking at national where your heart is?
Yes.
Statewide for sure.
Statewide for sure. Yeah. Yes.
You look like going back to the Valley.
Well, that's definitely one of my my dreams, but also one in Fort Worth. Different cities in Texas. But always, I'm not in a rush to grow as fast.
Just go with the flow.
I need to have a good foundation, and that's really what I'm doing now is building people to be able to build the legacy that I want and to be able to see the change in schools that I want to see, and showing that people that you can make money, but you don't have to scam people. You can still treat people with respect. People can still value it and make money themselves. And I think, like you said, when you're in your purpose, you don't chase the money. It just comes, and then from there, opportunity comes, and then I get so many students calling us, telling us we vetted other schools, we want to go where the culture's at, and we have a good culture, and I'm very proud of that.
So you guys do electrical and HVAC
training.
Right? So HVAC and electrician, you guys going to stick to that? Or you're gonna
for now, I believe that's really where I want to stick to. I get a lot of people that want to add programs, and there's a lot of companies that need a workforce, like plumbing and welding, phlebotomy, all these things. But like I said, when you try to do too much without a foundation, it's going to crumble. Yeah. And again, I want to make sure that I understand myself that every life that comes in through that door is an opportunity for them to change whatever it is, because we do serve an underserved community on our school. And I know that we are that second chance for them. And I don't take that lightly. So I don't ever want to play with that. I would never want to strategize with that. I can strategize with my life. I can strategize with my stuff, but not with somebody else's. And that's what a lot of schools are lacking. They do not care.
They see the money
about that person or what it's gonna do for their life and their family and their legacy. We do. We know that this is gonna change lives and it's gonna be better for all of us.
What would be, one thing that you would see? Maybe you're talking to if you want, talk to yourself who was at 9 years old. At that time, at 9 years old, where were you living? At
9 years old, I believe I was in Brownsville or Fort Worth, one of the two. I was somewhere in Texas.
Let's say there's a single mom that's listening, right? Latina, and she's listening and she's watching you right now.
I would say,
what would you tell her?
I would say, believe in yourself. It is going to be hard. You might not know how to do it. People are going to tell you can't do it. You're going to feel like the world is on your shoulders, but still do it. Still, what keeps you up at night, that little idea or that thing that you know how to do best, like continue to cultivate that for yourself, for your children, for your family, and you will see that there's so much out here. There's so much opportunity, and we're our only obstacles. Like I said, it will be hard, but you have to find ways. If there's an obstacle, there's many ways to tackle that obstacle. So I would say believe in yourself and don't let anybody put you in a mold that's not where you want to be in, What
is a quote that you live by?
Your hustle is holy, but build boldly.
Oh my gosh. That's good.
I love that. Yes.
Because your hustle is holy,
but build boldly.
That's awesome.
Yes.
We gotta make some shirts out of that.
I know, right? It's good.
We're gonna have that up here on the.
Yeah. For my school, it's don't just learn, earn.
Yeah.
But for me, is your hustle is holy, build boldly. Yeah. And I think if we all would internally use our hustle, what we learned, whatever hustle, that you're not hurting anybody. If you have God as your center, it's your purpose. It's definitely, it's going to only go up from there.
Yeah. And then the hustle is people, the hustle, could be scamming people or whatever. But the hustle what we're talking about is you working hard to get it. You're not quitting.
Yes.
The hustle is the grit. The hustle is the perseverance.
Yes.
The hustle is understanding that when you're back against the wall, I'm going to fight my way out of this, knowing that God's beside me.
Yes.
That is the hustle. When you talk about the hustle was holy, I know everything.
Exactly.
You could preach on that. You can keep going. You can do a whole podcast show just on that.
Just on that.
Just that one slogan.
Yes. I think it's right what you're saying. You have to understand there's a difference in hustle.
For sure.
Yeah. Yes. We're not talking about go hustle and up
scam.
one. Your friend over there. No, we're talking about you don't quit, you don't give up, and you keep on grinding.
Yep.
That's hustle.
What would you say is that if you put your message on a billboard, what would your message be? If there's a one-liner on a billboard, what would your billboard look like?
I mean, what I do is don't just learn, earn.
Yeah.
I want people to understand that education is power and it's the ticket to get you out of wherever you want to be. But the way that you learn, you should understand that, because some people are kinesthetic learners that are more ADHD like myself.
Right.
There's other people that are more theory based and they go to college. We need lawyers, we need doctors, but we also need tradesmen and women. So if you understand who you are as a learner and not let society tell you, then from there you can understand that education is your gateway.
Yep.
And you don't just have to learn. You learn, but you turn that into money.
Yeah, and I'm not saying knocking any education, by the way. I believe, now that I'm older, some people don't need to go to 4-year colleges to do all this. And, I've noticed that there's a trend now that in the trade and actual manpower labor, there's actually an uptick of people, of youngsters who are actually interested, because technology seems to be replacing, other tech jobs like marketing or, computer-based jobs where technology is replacing that. But there is now a trend of back to manpower, blue-collar jobs.
Skill-based jobs.
Are you seeing that?
Oh, yes. What I'm now in 14 years into this industry, and 10 years ago, people were closing the door in my face, saying tradesmen, they look down on it.
Yeah.
Tradeswomen, they look down on it. Blue collar jobs, they look down on it. They were like, that's a little job, not knowing the potential of it too. And now fast forward, COVID really exposed the essential workers and really showed that you as a country, you will crumble if you don't have tradesmen and tradeswomen that can fix these beautiful buildings that architects build. You know
what's incredible? By the way, my son became a welder. Okay. And he's 20 years old, my oldest son. Instead of following my footsteps into technology and marketing, he decides to go into welding, and that's not that's not me. But it's really cool to see that he's very passionate about having a hands-on job. He loves it. Yeah, he loves that. But I think it's interesting to see our society today, our culture, because 10 years ago, we probably wouldn't have thought our country kind of going to a place where it'd be more hands-on. We relied on other countries, other nations, Mexico, China, Taiwan, do the actual labor, and kind of less just being in front of a computer, which is both that job still needed, but it's interesting that that's coming back and back here to the United States. Okay, any last things that you want to add?
I mean, no, I'm
yeah.
I guess I would say, I don't know on that one.
No, Elvia, it was so great to have you on the show. I love your story, and the story of the vision that you have and the purpose and the passion that you have for your school.
Thank you.
Your hustle is holy.
Yes.
But
you got to build boldly.
Build boldly.
You got to build boldly. Yep. The hustle is always, you can always make your hustle holy.
Yep.
But if you're not building boldly, you're scared. And God did not call us to be scared.
No,
He made us to be great.
He had us we could face Goliaths.
With a purpose. You got to face your
David faced the Goliath with pebbles and stones.
Exactly.
And we faced the Goliath.
Sermon this last Sunday at church.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, it
okay.
was.
Awesome. Elvia, tell the listeners and viewers how they could reach you guys.
Or they can contact us by phone at 832-944-1042, or they can go online to Texas, spelled out techtrade.com, or follow our handles, Texas Tech Trade, in Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok.
Elvia, thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you prosper and seeing what God has in store for Texas Technical Trade School, for you guys out there, for you and your son, and the incredible staff that you guys have out there. It is an honor to serve you guys.
Thank you.
And help you guys market. I hope my team is doing good. Let me know if they're not. Let me know if they're not. I
love aligning with like-minded people that have a drive, have a hustle.
Yeah.
I think you guys are doing amazing, and I mean, like I said, we're on a waiting list.
Thank you. That's all. I love to hear it.
Yes.
We got to get to that next. We want to take you to the next level, but in God's time, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
but until next time, make sure you guys share this video, share the podcast, hit the subscribe button, follow us on Instagram and on TikTok. Until next time, stay blessed, and the hustle never stops.